The sun slowly rose over the wide open land of Maasai Mara in Kenya. Soft golden light touched the tall grass, and a cool morning breeze moved gently across the ground. Birds flew low, and animals began to wake. This was a peaceful morning, but something big was about to happen. In the distance, a lioness named Zuri walked quietly through the grass. Her eyes were sharp, and every step she took was strong and careful. Beside her, a small lion cub tried to keep up. His name was Jabari, and he was full of energy and curiosity. He was Zuri's only cub, and she loved him more than anything in the world. Zuri had chosen to leave her pride, a big group of lions, to train Jabari on her own. She wanted to keep him safe. Out here, she could teach him how to survive without others getting in the way. But the wild is full of danger, even when everything seems calm. Jabari playfully chased a butterfly, then jumped at a grasshopper. He didn't yet understand how serious life could be. Zuri watched him carefully. She knew that play was part of learning, but she also knew that one mistake in the wild could change everything. Every day, Zuri taught Jabari how to hunt, how to walk silently, and how to hide in the grass. But Jabari didn't always listen. Sometimes he got distracted. This morning was no different. They were walking through a part of the grassland they had never explored before. The wind carried new smells, dust, dry plants, maybe even the scent of other animals. Zuri sniffed the air and kept her body low. She felt something wasn't right, but she couldn't tell what it was. Jabari ran ahead, his little legs moving fast. Suddenly the ground under his feet gave way. Without warning, he disappeared. A loud, high-pitched cry came from the grass. Zuri's heart jumped. She ran to the sound, fear rising inside her. When she reached the spot, her worst fear came true. Jabari had fallen into a deep hole, hidden by the tall grass. It was an old trap, or maybe a dried-up animal pit. The sides were steep, and the bottom was covered in dust and rocks. Jabari was stuck. He cried out again, his small paws scratching at the wall, trying to climb, but he couldn't get out. Zuri roared, walking around the hole again and again. Her eyes searched the land for help, for anything. She wanted to jump in, but if she did, she might get stuck too. She could do nothing except watch her baby suffer. Her body trembled, not from fear, but from heartbreak. Jabari looked up at her with eyes full of pain and trust. He believed she could save him. Zuri knew time was running out. If she waited too long, her cub might not survive. She let out a low growl, filled with sadness and love. Then she made a hard choice. She turned away and ran. She didn't leave because she gave up. She ran because she had one last hope. Out on the main road, far across the grassland, humans sometimes drove by in their big safari trucks. Zuri had seen them before. They never attacked. In fact, long ago, one of them had saved her life. Could they help her again? She didn't know if they would understand. She didn't know if they would follow, but she had no other choice. Jabari's cries still echoed in her ears as she ran, faster than ever before. With every step, the wind rushed past her face and the tall grass slapped against her body. But nothing could stop her now. Her cub needed help, and she would do whatever it took to save him. And as the morning light grew stronger and the road came into view, Zuri prepared to do something no wild lion had done before. She was going to ask humans for help. Zuri's paws hit the dirt road, her breathing heavy, her heart pounding like a drum. The wild grass was behind her now, and open land stretched out in all directions. For the first time in her life, she was completely alone on the human path. No trees to hide behind, no place to run. But Zuri didn't stop. She remembered Jabari's cries. They were still fresh in her mind, like thorns poking her heart. She had to be brave. She had to do something no lioness had ever done. Suddenly, a low sound rumbled in the distance. Zuri froze. Her ears twitched toward the noise. The ground trembled lightly. Then she saw it. A large safari truck came slowly down the road, its tires kicking up clouds of red dust. Inside the truck were people, tourists, guides, maybe even someone who understood animals. Zuri narrowed her eyes, trying to decide what to do. These creatures were not like her. They stood on two legs, they smelled different, but maybe, just maybe, they could help. The truck slowed when the driver spotted Zuri. "Stop! Look, a lioness!" someone inside shouted, pointing. Zuri didn't growl. She didn't show her teeth. She didn't hide. Instead, she stood in the middle of the road. Her tail was low. Her eyes were calm, yet desperate. She didn't move, not even when the truck came closer. The tourists inside gasped and lifted their cameras. The driver, a man named Kofi, looked at her closely. He had seen many lions in his life, but never one acting like this. Something was wrong. "This is strange," Kofi muttered. "She's not hunting. She's not scared. Look at her eyes. She's asking for something." Zuri turned, took a few slow steps, then looked back at the truck. She wanted them to follow. Kofi understood. "I think she wants us to come with her." One of the tourists laughed nervously. "Are you serious? A lion asking for help?" But Kofi wasn't joking. "Get the vet bag, we're going." Zuri walked back into the grassland, slowly but with purpose. Every few steps she turned to check if they were following. They were. The truck moved carefully across the bumpy land, the tires pushing through dry plants and uneven ground. Zuri led them deeper, back toward the place that had taken her cub. As they drove, the wind grew stronger. Clouds began to form. The sky darkened slightly. A storm might be coming, but Zuri didn't care. Her baby was down there, alone. She had to reach him before it was too late. After many long minutes, she stopped. The hole was just ahead. The truck came to a stop too. Kofi jumped out, holding his medical bag. Behind him came a young vet named Amina, quiet and focused. The team followed Zuri's gaze, and then they heard it, a weak cry from below. "Oh no!" Amina whispered. She ran forward and looked down into the pit. Jabari was lying at the bottom, barely moving. His tiny body was covered in dust. His paw was bleeding. "He's alive," Amina said, her voice shaking. "But he's hurt bad. We have to get him out now." Kofi nodded. "Quickly, get the ropes, lower the cage." Zuri watched closely, never leaving her spot. Her eyes followed every move. She didn't growl or roar. Somehow she seemed to know they were trying to help. The rescue team worked fast. The cage was lowered into the pit. Jabari flinched at first, but when Amina whispered softly to him, her voice calm and warm, he relaxed. Gently, they lifted him up, inch by inch. Zuri took one step forward, her muscles tight with worry. Finally, the cage came up, and Jabari was out. He was safe. Amina carefully took him out of the cage and placed him on a soft cloth in the truck. She cleaned his wounds, gave him water. And all the while, Zuri stood nearby, never taking her eyes off her cub. But something was wrong. Jabari didn't stand, he didn't roar. His eyes blinked slowly, he was losing strength. "He needs surgery," Amina said. "We have to take him to the wildlife clinic, now." Zuri let out a low sound, full of fear. Would she be left behind? Would they take her baby and never bring him back? Kofi saw her panic. He stepped forward and whispered, "We won't hurt him." "We'll bring him back to you, I promise." But Zuri didn't move. She looked at the truck, then back at her cub. Her body trembled again, but this time it wasn't fear, it was a choice. She would follow. As the truck rolled away, Zuri walked behind it, step by step, never letting her cub leave her sight. And in the distance, thunder rolled softly across the land. Something big was coming. The wind blew harder as the truck moved across the bumpy road. Leaves flew in circles. Dust rose behind them like a cloud. Inside the truck, Amina held Jabari close, her hands gentle, her heart racing. She had never seen a cub so small, so quiet. Zuri ran behind the truck, her body shaking from tiredness, but she didn't stop. Every step felt heavier, but she kept her eyes on the back of the truck. Her baby was inside. That was all that mattered. Kofi glanced at the side mirror. "She's still following us," he said. Amina nodded. She knows where we're going." It was strange, almost impossible, but Zuri understood more than any of them expected. This wasn't just an animal. This was a mother, and she was fighting to keep her promise. After what felt like forever, the truck reached the edge of the reserve, where the small wildlife clinic stood surrounded by tall fences and trees. The sky was dark now, lightning flashed in the far distance, followed by soft rumbles of thunder. Rain would come soon. The team rushed inside. Amina carried Jabari to the table. She moved quickly, checking his heart, his breathing, his wound. "He's bleeding inside," she whispered. "We need to work fast." Kofi helped her prepare. The room filled with beeping sounds, flashing lights, and soft instructions. It was a race against time. Outside the clinic, Zuri arrived. Her paws hit the cement path, unfamiliar and cold. She looked around, confused. The trees were gone, the smells were strange, and her cub was missing. She let out a deep, low call. The guards near the gate stepped back in fear. "There's a lioness!" one shouted, but Kofi heard her. He rushed to the door. "Wait, don't scare her. She followed us here." "She's dangerous," one man warned. "No," Kofi said firmly. "She's just afraid." Zuri stood still, her eyes locked on the door. She didn't roar, she didn't attack. She only waited, for a sign, for a sound, anything from her cub.
Inside, Amina worked with careful hands. Jabari's breathing slowed. His tiny chest rose and felt like it was carrying the whole weight of the world. Amina closed her eyes for a second and whispered, "Please stay with me, little one." Then she made the first cut. The surgery began. Outside, Zuri paced back and forth, soft growls rising in her throat. She didn't know what was happening behind the walls, but she felt something. Her heart pulled her closer, but the humans wouldn't let her in. Minutes felt like hours. Inside, Amina's hands didn't stop. Sweat dripped down her face. The power flickered once. The wind howled against the windows. But she kept going. "Almost there," Kofi said, watching her carefully. "You're doing great." Amina nodded, her eyes never leaving Jabari's fragile body. Finally, she stitched the last cut. Then silence. They waited. Jabari didn't move. Amina pressed her hand over his chest. Then one soft breath. And another. He was alive. Amina smiled with tears in her eyes. "He made it." Kofi sighed in relief. "Let's get him outside." She's still waiting. They carried Jabari out in a soft cloth. Zuri saw them immediately. Her ears twitched. Her eyes locked onto her baby. She didn't run forward. She waited. Kofi placed the cub gently on the ground and stepped back. Zuri approached slowly, each step cautious. She sniffed her cub, licked his face gently. Jabari opened his eyes just a little and let out a soft sound, weak but alive. Zuri lay beside him, curling her body around his tiny frame. The rain finally began to fall, soft drops tapping the ground. But under the storm, there was warmth. "She saved him," Amina whispered. "Without her, he wouldn't have survived." Kofi nodded. She never gave up. That night, they gave Zuri and Jabari a safe place near the clinic, where no one would hurt them. A shelter was built. Food was brought. And slowly, day by day, Jabari healed. Zuri never left his side, not once. Word of the brave lioness spread far and wide. People came to see the miracle, how a mother crossed into human land, not for food or fear, but for love. And Zuri, she kept her promise. She had brought her cub back from the edge, not with claws or teeth, but with courage, hope, and a voice only a mother's heart could hear. If this story touched your heart, show some love with a like. Every animal deserves kindness. Subscribe to hear more powerful stories like this. Share this with someone who believes in the strength of a mother's love. Together, we can raise voices for the voiceless. Hit subscribe and stay with us.